Thank you. Welcome everyone to our Governance and Transparency Committee for 1 December 2021. All councillors are in attendance. Does anybody have any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda today? Looking around the room, that's a resolute no. We'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes. Do any members of the committee wish to move that? Councillor Doyle, seconded by Mayor Harding. Any discussion arising from those minutes? All right, I'll put it to the vote that the minutes of the Governance and Transparency Committee held on 4 November 2021 be confirmed. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. We will move on to the first officer's report for today, the review of CEO annual performance appraisal policy. Do any members of the committee have questions for any council officers on this one? No? Would anybody like to move the recommendations? Mayor Harding? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Doyle? Any discussion? All right, there being no discussion, well, I've erred here. Were you happy to move A and B together, Mayor? And Councillor Doyle, you're happy to second that? Yep, okay. So I'll put to the vote recommendations A and B as before us. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. Item 3 today is our procurement matter for Recollect Picture Library subscriptions. Any questions of the officers on this matter this morning? We've all got the report before us. It's a 3 12-month terms totalling $49,500. Do any members wish to move these recommendations? I think we've got A through B. Moved by Mayor Harding, seconded by Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion? All right, I will put that to the vote that recommendation A and B are accepted. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. Item 4 today is another procurement matter, the 2022 Civic Centre Comedy Program. This matter is pretty interesting because it's about not inviting quotes or tenders for a specific purpose. Does anybody have any questions about the report for officers? No? Okay. Would any members of the committee like to move the matter? Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Johnnick. Any discussion? All right. That being the case, I will put the matter to the vote. Those in favour of accepting the recommendations? That's unanimous and carried. The next item is the acquisition of land for drainage purposes for Alice and Short Street Curb and Channel project. Do any members of the committee have questions on this matter? Mayor Harding, call on the relevant officer.
Good morning, Alicia Reek, Senior Property Officer, Acquisitions and Disposals.
Thank you, Ms Reek. And through the chair, can I just confirm that the land we're looking at acquiring isn't a house, it's a vacant block of land?
That is correct.
Yes, yep. And is there any consultation being done with the neighbours?
There's a community consultation with the whole area with the project, but not in relation to that actual physical land take. We'd only deal with directly with that owner.
Okay. And how has the consultation been?
It wasn't actually me personally, because
Yeah.
we've had another officer depart council last week. So he went out and met with the owner, and very well the meeting went very well. She's basically at a position now where they're just waiting on monetary offer.
Right. Okay. Do you see that there's any negative impacts to the community on this particular? It seems like a very good idea to me. There's a drainage issue, there's vacant land.
And it is naturally an open gully.
Yep.
So as far as the property as a whole, the actual physical house and shed and all the improvements are on other lots.
Okay.
So yeah, that particular lot in existence, it will improve flood mitigation.
Okay.
There are different components to the whole project as such with infrastructure and engineering, but with this particular component of the acquisition, everyone will be quite happy with the outcome of this being improved, because we'll be able to physically get in, clear out the natural gully and get some infrastructure in there so it's flowing correctly.
Thanks, Ms. Rick.
Thank you.
Would any members of the committee like to move recommendation A through C? Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Johnnick. Any discussion from the committee this morning? Mayor?
For my chair, I just think, in particular today with all the rain that's happening, how important it is to have good drainage as our city grows, and it's a nice coincidence that the area is a vacant block, and it'll give a really good result for our local residents. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur. I've seen the drainage issues at that particular location before. Haven't managed to get out there this morning, but on the trip in from home, certainly saw a lot of water built up across our city, and it is a pretty firm reminder of getting that infrastructure right so that people can still get around and be safe. Yes, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Chair, and as I'm sure you guys experience within your division, and particularly around here where we have these big bodies of water laying around and can't escape, they do present potential localised flooding issues, but as we've seen of late all across southeast Queensland, mosquitoes are a big problem and it becomes a breeding ground. So for several reasons I'll be supporting this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. I concur. Any further discussion? All right, that being the matter, I'll put recommendation A through C to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. Item 6 today is titled Rates Relief in Response to the COVID-19 Pandemic. Do any members of the committee have questions for the relevant officer on this matter? Mayor Harding? All right, looks like we've got Mr. Mollenhauer today.
Paul Mollenhauer, Council Treasury Accounting Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mollenhauer. Through the chair, I guess since this new council came in, we've been very aware of the impact of rates and the difficulties that COVID has had on people. What this paper today is looking at extending them. Do you mind outlining what it's extending?
So the principal relief provided to ratepayers under the proposal is similar to our existing relief, which is the effectively waiving of interest and granting of discounts for ratepayers who are remaining on payment arrangements. Thank
you. What are the challenges with this if it is voted, is supported today? So the primary difficulty with, well, the experience that council's had thus far through the COVID period has been the level of communication that comes back from various ratepayers. Some ratepayers are very willing and able to communicate with council, others are less willing. So that depends on their individual circumstances. From the start of the COVID period, we've had a number of ratepayers who simply haven't communicated with council at all. Those people aren't involved within our COVID group. So these are only ratepayers who are coming forward with their circumstances around their COVID impacts. What we would look to do going forward with any further rates relief is to, best expression would be to tighten somewhat in terms of how we're providing that relief. So there'll be a greater level of scrutiny, question, go back to the ratepayer in terms of their circumstances and their level of commitment towards continuing to make those payments to address their arrears going forward. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mollenhauer.
To a small degree, yes. So we will look to have that conversation with those ratepayers in a little bit more of a detailed fashion. In the first instance, given the volumes, there was a general acceptance of where a ratepayer was at, and we would accept that on face value. We know now from experience with certain ratepayers that they will communicate in a certain way and then their actions won't follow that up. So we'll look to test that a little bit further, give them the opportunity to follow through on their commitments and then make decisions after that as to how well we then continue to support them going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know this absolutely goes without saying because I worked very closely with yourself and your amazing team last year at the beginning of COVID, supporting some residents who were in deep financial distress. So I guess rather than a question, it's probably just a comment. If I can urge you to continue working with those residents, as you've outlined you will do, but you make comment about those that don't, I guess, respond or converse with council. We all know that silence may be as a result of embarrassment and shame.
Absolutely.
So I rely on you guys to continue working with everyone in, a very empathetic way. But acknowledge, we have a job to do here at council for ratepayers overall. So thank you.
Cheers.
All right. Would any members of the committee like to move recommendation A and B? Councillor Milligan, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Any further discussion from the committee? Mayor?
If I may, Chair, I think the breakdown of the figures are quite interesting. As the 30th of September, arrears is about $980,000. Just over half that's for residential properties, just under half is non-residential. But I do note here there are a number of non-owner occupied residential property owners, most being vacant land, that appear to have made minimal efforts to pay down arrears. So I guess if as things move on, I think we'll be starting to look at the areas where, we just need people to communicate with us and start contributing towards the rates, even if it's a small amount, to show that good faith as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Chair. Just would like to respond to the Mayor's comments, and whilst I concur with the Mayor's, observations, I think we need to be very mindful that some of these, I guess, commercial property owners may be mum and dad investors.
Absolutely.
And if they are our local mum and dad investors, then I would expect council officers to continue to work with them under the COVID arrangements, hardship arrangements. But I absolutely understand as well, for good economic management, we need to be doing more.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle.
Through your Chair.
Councillor Johnning?
Just to reiterate that I have faith in our officers in the Finance Department to use their equitable discretion when it comes to looking at these ratepayers that are overdue.
Thank you, Councillor Johnning. Mayor?
Chair, I guess maybe I should clarify. I was just encouraging people to communicate with council. We are obviously have been very understanding. We haven't asked people to provide evidence of hardship to support our community during COVID. So I just ask that people just continue to keep in contact with council so we can support you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion this morning? All right, I'll add my own 5 cents to the mix. I'd just like to extend a warm compliment to Mr. Mollenhauer and his team. It's very difficult being what's effectively the tax man for local government. I think there's a great deal of compassion extended to people who have a lot going on in their life when they fall behind in rates, and I've got complete faith in Mr. Mollenhauer and his team to ensure that people are heard and assisted where able. It's a very difficult area. Any discussion about rates as a local government authority is probably never going to be one where people are happy to talk to you, but I think the work that's done by our team to assist people and help them come up with a strategy to regain control of that little element of their finances is great, and that's an aspect of council that I'm really proud to be associated with. So thank you to the team, and indeed even Mr. Keach there, the CFO, is here today. That being said, I will put recommendation A and B to the vote. Those in favour? That is unanimous and carried. We'll move on to our last item for today, which is an Ivolved Project quarterly status update. Do any members of the committee, Mayor Harding, like to call on the relevant officer?
Anna Payne, Principal Officer, Enterprise Program Management Office.
Thank you, Ms Payne. I appreciate this report too. As the report does state that this is a high-risk project, so I appreciate the very thorough and strategic approach that
Thank you.
that you're playing. Are there any highlights that you'd like to point out to the council?
I guess probably just the change in approach, Mayor, to the resourcing approach we're taking for stage 3. As the report outlines, the original approach was to re-engage a business partner for this stage. However, after thorough evaluation of that approach, it was deemed that it wasn't a viable approach for council. And instead we've engaged a more council-led team, which allows the skills to stay in-house and will be led by a program director. So I guess that's probably the key point of the report, and that's progressing as outlined.
Right. What are the main risks that you'd like to highlight to us?
I guess the risks are similar to what we've highlighted previously. Obviously, there's been a time delay in that change of approach. However, we're working closely with the program director to try and pull some of that time delay back. And they're working on a detailed stage plan as we speak. So once that plan has been formalised, we'll be able to have a better idea of the timings for this stage, which will then impact the timings for the next stage.
Okay. Thank you, Ms Payne.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've just got the one recommendation for this matter. Would any members of the committee like to move that? Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion? Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, often we have our briefings and workshops, we discuss some of the things from customer experience strategy to asset management, other things. We know that our software systems underpin a lot of the improvements that we wish to make. So, I know that the team there appreciate the enormity of the task they have, and I appreciate their thorough approach.
Thank you, Mayor. It certainly is a project that is key to council maturing and delivering better outcomes, and it's pretty exciting. It's going to take a while to go through it all, but yeah, very important piece of work. Any further discussion this morning? All right, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. That was our last item for today, so Merry Christmas to all committee members, or whichever things you celebrate over the season. May you do so with family and friends. I'll call the meeting closed at 9:51, and the next meeting will start in 10 minutes.